To be honest, I just looked up a YouTube video from Roger Wakefield. He's a professional plumber, so I'm taking his word for it.
Well, I love this because some of you, some of my people, some of the effing crew literally reached out to me and says, Roger, this guy used your video to fix the plumbing on a $7,000 mansion. Well, that sounded pretty interesting. I'm going to jump in and review this job that he did, and I'd love to hear your comments to see what y'all think about it.
At the bottom that leads us into the basement.
All
We're
right.
going to be working down there today. More specifically, we are going to be hooking up a sump pump drain line.
We are going to be installing a radon mitigation system.
And we are going to be taking all of these plumbing supplies and plumb the entire basement. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 100% restoration and remodel of my great-great-grandfather's $7,000 mansion. All right.
Man,
so
don't you wish you'd have invested
$7,000
$7,000 back then?
First, Roman is going to finish digging this little trench right here, and then he is going to be installing a French drain. Once he has that in, then he's going to take this Y, he's going to put it right here. French drain's going to come in on that side. Then over this way, we have another trench.
At the end of the trench, we have our sump pump.
The sump pump is not hooked up yet, so we need to cut a hole right here, and then we need to get our pipe attached to it.
Once we get our pipe hooked up, we're going to lay it in the trench, and then we're going to backfill it. Once we get done with that, we have this big old roll of drainage tile. We need to dig a 4-inch trench all the way around the entire perimeter of the basement. Then we need to throw this inside of it because this is going to be our radon mitigation system. And then last but not least, we are going to try to install the plumbing.
And FYI, we are not plumbers.
We definitely have our work cut out for us today, and I have a little change of plan starting off. I actually have some computer work that I need to do, so Roman is going to get started with the French drain.
You know, now that's the way to do it. Say, hey, look, you start work, and I'm going to go play on the computer. Work on the computer. So, interesting. Let's check this out and see what all they do. So basically, he's building here a subsurface drainage system. And this keeps any water that could be up under the slab, don't know where he's going to drain it to, but draining out, look like outside the building right there. And we don't do a lot of that, especially here on residential here in Texas. Okay, now, that was interesting. He ran it outside. Now he's running it inside to the sump pit here. Yeah, he is actually down there working. That's a good thing to see.
There's one to get started actually installing some of this other plumbing. Now, originally I was planning on installing our radon mitigation system before we get to the actual sewage plumbing, but after doing a little bit of thinking about it, we don't need to mess with anything with grade when it comes to the radon. If we need to dig deep in a spot, we can, because it's just going to be sucking air through that. So getting water to flow, not important, because that's going to be a closed loop that's just connected to a pipe that gets sucked up and outside of the house. But
okay, so he's just keeping any gases from building up down in the basement.
For that. So I want to get the sewage stuff in first, so that way we can get everything to grade. And then if we need to dig underneath of something for the radon mitigation system, we can. And then we'll also kind of know our layout on what our workarounds are going to be once we have this installed. So I'm just going to grab these items here. We have all our floor drains and stuff. I'm going to lay them where I think they need to go. We'll get all
that's
of our
a
big
very
pipes laid
interesting
out
floor
as well
drain.
where I think they need to go, as well as all of our connections.
It's the interesting P-trap, really, because you've got a P-trap, but you've also got the little bypass on it. I'm assuming that's strictly for a clean out.
The thoughts that I have, and maybe I'll be able to challenge some of the thoughts that Roman has towards things, and then we should be able to come up with our best results on the plumbing thing. And Roman's not a plumber, I'm not a plumber. We've never done this by ourselves, or at least I've never done this by myself, so we got some learning to do. So Roman and I have spent a few minutes laying down how this plumbing is going to go. And okay, if plumbing is not interesting to you, I apologize. And frankly, plumbing is not interesting to me either, but this is something that
Plumbing
has
is
to be
very
done.
interesting
so
to
we're
me.
just figuring it out, and we don't want to pay someone $10,000 to come in and do this. So we're just figuring it out ourselves. So please bear with me, but it's just as boring for me as it is for you. But this drain, what we're thinking right now, is going to drain over to another drain that we're going to have over here. So we have a Y. We are going to have the boiler system for the house on this wall, and that needs to have a place where the condensation can drip to.
So there is going to be a drip spot right here, and then if we have it, let's say a dehumidifier, or we are also going to have an air handler up here. I don't know if that has a condensation point on it or not, but all of those things will be able to drain in right here, and then it will be able to continue over to this corner. Now this corner is going to have a pipe that's going to raise up, and this is where the upstairs plumbing is going to come down into. So the kitchen is right above my head right now. There's an upstairs bathroom above this. All of that will come right here, and we have a clean out. And so if we have a plug or something, we can get in there with the clean out. But then that is going to shoot down this main pipe over here, and this is going to take us into the other room. And then continuing over here, we are short on materials. We need to get some more stuff. They didn't have enough at the store the other day when I was there, so we're gonna have to go back once they restock. But just imagine that we have a 45-degree pipe running over here. There's going to be a toilet and a sink over here, so those are gonna tie into this. And then behind me, we have another floor drain in the middle of the room, and so that will be draining into that. And then on another 45 over to this back corner, we are going to be having all of the septic that is coming from the bathroom that is above this. Same thing as the other corner. We're gonna have a clean out right here as well. Anytime we're dropping down, we have to have a clean out, and there's actually going to be one over here by the opening that leads to the outside, but I forgot to lay down piping for it. But there's a bathroom straight above my head right now, so we're actually gonna have another clean out right here, and we are going to have to figure out how to get all of this tied in together and make sure everything's at the right level. You can't have your pipe too flat in the floor, and you can't have your pipe too steep. You got to have it just right. So in order for us to make all of our drains and everything work together, Roman and I are going to be doing a little bit of head scratching, and on top of that, we also have to figure out code on stuff to make sure that we're not accidentally sucking one of the drains dry when we flush a toilet or something and water comes through and it makes pressure inside. So we have some figuring out to do.
Okay, now one of my first thoughts here is, number one, I saw the lines going upstairs to catch the upstairs bathrooms and kitchens and things like that. I'm assuming those lines are already vented, so there's some vent there. But there's a pretty long arm running over for a P-trap, a floor drain in the middle of a room, and I didn't see any vent off that yet. So let's see how this goes and how it turns out.
As much as we may not like taking trips into the store to get supplies, it actually got me thinking quite a bit, and I was able to do some research, and we are going to be making some changes, or at least I think I found some things that are going to point us in a better direction, that are going to give us a better result.
Now plumbing in and of itself is very simple. The stuff comes in one end, it travels through the pipe, and then it leaves the other end, or at least that's what it's supposed to do. So right now, the way we have it set up, we have it on a 1% slope. So for every foot that stuff travels inside the pipe, it drops 1/8 of an inch. I did a little bit more research, and we're gonna steepen that up just a little bit more. So now for every foot we go, it is going to drop 1/4 of an inch.
Hey Cole, I have a question. How do you figure out, like 1% it's 1/8 of an inch, a little more it's 1/4 of an inch?
To be honest, I just looked up a YouTube video from Roger Wakefield. He's a professional plumber.
I love that.
40 years, and he said that is what it is. So I'm taking his word for it because he's got twice as much experience as I've been alive.
And now we're on the struggle bus.
No.
And, remember too, you've also got to look at what you're running, what your code is, what the addendums are to your code. There's a lot of things to look at. Please, guys, when you listen to my videos, understand that's based on the way we do things around here.
Oh, now we're relying on Roger Wakefield's advice. Look at that handlebar mustache right there.
He looks
That is a good looking guy. I mean, I don't know if, I'm just saying.
suitable to me.
Yeah, he's definitely a plumber.
Definitely a plumber. My thought too is right now I'd be interested in what video did they watch and what changes were made based on that video. Was it just the grade? Okay, I see them shooting grade right here. They've got the laser level.
After a few hours, look what we have done. We have downpipe coming in, so that's going to catch upstairs sewer coming into that. We got drain line for the boiler, the dehumidifier, anything else. There's actually going to be a wall right here, so these are going to be hidden behind it. So everything will be nice and conspicuous. But coming down that, we got the 45 in. We got our Y figured out.
Okay, so I'm going to back up just a little bit here. Okay, so see, he says that drain line is going to be hidden by the wall. My thought, had I designed this, had I laid this out, I would try to figure out how deep is this air handler unit that he's going to have. Go ahead and look at the drawings on it. Where's the drain line come out? I would probably have the condensation drain as a P-trap down here in the floor, something like that. But I probably would not have ran an individual line over like this unless if he's got enough room, if he's going to turn that up, put a sand tee, and then come out with a P-trap, and that could possibly be.
Coming down that, we got the 45 in. We got our Y figured out for our floor
And you've got a floor drain here, depending on what kind of code you're dealing with here.
We just got to get all the fittings to get that.
Where's the vent for that?
We are now ready to make our bend and then get over here into the big room.
And I do like that laser level. I like having that. That way you can check elevation on everything as you go through. And I want to back that up because I just saw him do that. So every time you see him there putting the tape measure on it. Okay, so right here you see what he's doing. He's holding this tape measure up. You can't, and I can't get it to stop right on the spot. But he's holding this P-trap up and checking the elevation to see, is it just below the floor level? Because when you install a P-trap on floor like that, you want to taper it down just a little bit to it. There you go, right there. So what he's doing, he's trying to let this laser light hit the tape measure. That way he knows, say he's got that laser set 3 feet above floor level. He may say, okay, if I want this an inch below, he's going to set that tape measure there until it says 3'1". Nice little offset down here.
After day number 2 of our plumbing adventure, this is what we've gotten done so far. This is going to be the utility room, and it's pretty much done, other than we need to add in where the sink is going to go, but that's going to be extremely easy right there because everything's all open. But otherwise, we got the main coming in from upstairs, so everything upstairs will drop into that pipe right there. That is going to be the collector for the boiler condensation, the whatchamacallit, the thing that gets the moisture out of the air, the dehumidifier, and then anything else we'll be able to drain into that. And then we have the floor drain, and this is set 1.5 inches below grade, meaning the center is going to be 1.5 inches lower than the outside with the concrete, so it's going to be like a little funnel. So if anything were to leak in the utility room, everything would funnel to that drain, and then it would get taken away underneath and then outside of the house. So that way we don't have to worry about flood.
Now, the only thing I might think about here is if this is a basement and it's not going to get water in that P-trap a lot, you may want to run a trap primer to it to keep the trap from getting dry. Because if it does get dry, and this ties into sewer, you said this is going to catch the bathroom from upstairs, you don't want to smell those sewer gases in this basement.
In this room, we did make it over into this room. We got this all set up on grade, and then Roman and I had a little bit of fun building this area here. We have a floor drain sitting right there in the middle, so this one is going to be sitting grade. We're also going to be having another one right over there.
I don't know But what it looks like from here, and this may be a vent or something, or it may just be a piece of pipe. I can't really tell. But if they came over here, jumped up across, and then there's a trap right there, that could create a nest trap if there's no vent on it.
Something, then we don't have to worry about coming down to a foot of water in the basement because a pipe burst. It would at least keep the water away, albeit the floor may be damp.
Again,
But
a
we
trap
just wanna leave
primer
this flat in case
and a
down the
vent,
road
two
we
things
wanna
that I
do
see that I
something
think that I
different
would
in the
want to
basement.
do.
We don't have a sloped floor, and then we may not be able to do what we want to do because of that. But anyway,
And if you
when
look
we
at
built
this, I
center
mean,
footer
and I'm not big on air
because of
admittance
that.
valves,
But anyway,
but if you even pulled a vent line off this drain line, came over to this wall and turned up in it and had an access door with an air admittance valve, that would at least help keep it from just getting sucked dry.
anyway, when we built the center footer of the house a couple months ago, we knew we were going to be putting in these drains. So we put in these conduit pieces, and it worked out extremely well. We were able to get everything through. The only thing that we messed up on is we have this little bend right here, which this is just going to have water in it. If it ever has anything in it, it's going to be clean water. So everything should flow through nice and easy. That is a double 45. So nice big long bend there. But what we ran into is we just looked up the dimensions on this when we were putting in that conduit. And
If you look, it's got a plug right here. This is for a male adapter to run a trap primer into. And that's exactly the purpose of it.
I guess we didn't quite get the dimensions right. Either that or we changed the height of our concrete floor. But this pipe was just a little bit too high, and we would have been extremely steep going out of there, and we would not have been able to get square going into the fitting down there.
So again,
we just had to put in this little elbow.
the right way to do this would have been roll this combination up on a 45, come across at the right elevation, but he may not have been able to do that because of his sleeve.
There, but that is not a big deal whatsoever. Roman did just take off, but I have continued to do some more digging. Roman's definitely the specialty when it comes to actually getting all the technical stuff with this, but I can do the digging, so I'm just getting this rock out of the way. We have another.
And one question I have here is, I wonder if where he lives, does this get inspected? Does an inspector actually come out and look at it and say, hey, this is right, or hey, this is wrong, or there's a problem?
Conduit right here that we were planning on using, because back there in that back corner we have a clean out, but there is going to be a main vertical coming in there, and it'll shoot at an angle to here, and then it will be able to pass through here, and then we're going to have another floor drain right there. So it's basically going to look just like the setup that we have over there. But then once we get through here, then everything will branch together. There'll be a floor drain here, so we got to figure out how to make this work. And then where this pipe is, that's where it'll end up shooting out of the house, but it'll be tilted down instead of tilted up like it is right now. And then we are going to have a bathroom over here, so we'll have to get all that plumbed up into this configuration right here. But now I'm running into two little problems where I'm at, which they're really not a big deal at all, and that has to do with this conduit, and it has to do with the concrete in that back corner. Our problem with the concrete over here is that there's a pretty big lip coming up out of this, so if we set a piece of PVC pipe in here, the angle is really steep because we need it to go all the way back to there, so that way we can get it thrown right along the wall and it'll fit up inside of that cavity. But I need to take the jackhammer in here and go about 6 inches wide and maybe 3 or 4 inches deep, so that way I can get a little bit more gradual bleeding into the rock, so that way we can have the pipe at the grade that we are supposed to. And speaking of grade, I think
And that looks like a grade beam. So, I'm always very careful anytime I'm chipping into a grade beam. You don't want to do anything that can mess up the solid foundation of a house.
Is a 6-inch PVC pipe is going to be slightly out of grade, so I'm going to need to chop the top of it off, so that way our 4-inch pipe coming in will not hit the top, because I think it's just barely going to hit. So I'm really glad we put this here. We tried to foresee several months in advance, and if the worst thing I have to do is just chop the top of this off a little bit, I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, well. Let's say my thought on this, and as I'm watching him chip that out, my thought is, why not just 45 up into that corner and turn up? You can always build a false column there. You can do something, which I don't know what this room is for, but that would be a thought that I would rather do instead of chipping out some of the foundation. It definitely looks like the digging he gets to do is a lot easier than the digging we get to do here in Texas.
Looks like we got this part established. Now the pipe is all seated. We can glue this one and figure out what we're gonna do with this drain here, because it will have to connect into this pipe.
Yeah, I love that he's beveling the edges of the pipe there too. I know a lot of people that don't do that like they should. Now my question is, you cut a Y in after you had all this put together and you ran this long arm here. Why not cut the Y in just right here a little bit closer? And again, is this line over here going to be vented? I gotta tell you, for a couple of guys who don't do plumbing, this is really a pretty good looking job.
Today we had a little bit of water down here in the hole. Roman got the sump pump all sucked out, so we did not get any water down into the basement, which was a good thing because we're literally working right here and we have just the final little bit to go.
Look, guys, there's nothing wrong with dry fitting to see, is everything going to line up and go like it should? And again, man, I go back to the point. These guys aren't plumbers, but they're doing a really
You're a plumber, you're probably
pretty good job.
laughing at us by now because this little area here doesn't look like a lot, but believe me when I say it took Roman and I a strong 2 hours, and I'm pretty sure I glued together a total of like 2 fittings, and Roman did absolutely all of the rest. But we got where our toilet's gonna poke out right through here. Roman got this leveled up nicely, so then we'll just put our toilet flange on the top of it, and then we'll be ready to set the toilet up once we get our concrete poured. Over here is going to be the shower. Now we're going to leave a little spot open over here because we're not sure the exact layout of how our P-trap drain is going to be. So we want to make sure that we have ample room for that just in case. So we're leaving a little spot open when we pour our concrete, and then we'll backfill everything back in with concrete once we get our drain in. But now we just have one little spot left. We need to glue some pipes on over here, and then they're going to go against the wall and then up, and that is going to be where our sink is going to drain into. And Roman was extremely persistent that he glued them together.
Those of y'all that don't understand plumbing, what I think most plumbers would agree upon, we would come out here straight, turn up, put a sand tee, and then come out and turn up to catch this. And then on that line going up that should be a vent line going up through the roof, you would just branch off with a sand tee and come over and turn an arm out for a lavatory. The fact that he's running like a full 3 or 4 inch, it looks like a 3 inch, running a full 3 inch line over for a lavatory, it's an overkill. You don't need anything that big. You would only run 2 inch up and then stub out 1.5 inches.
Well, I pick up a shovel and start getting to work. So Roman's gonna glue the last of these together right here and get everything built for the sink drain, and then I'm going to take my shovel and I'm gonna take these big piles of rock that we put over here, and I'm going to backfill along all of the floor drains in this
So
room,
I guess they're not doing
that
any
room, and then the
inspection
utility room
or
around the
any
corner.
test.
Do also a little concrete
And
job.
you know what I would tell you there, guys, is anytime you install plumbing underground, you want to make sure you cap it off, you test it, you fill it with water, and see if all your glue joints are holding. Because if not, they will eventually leak under the slab and cause foundation problems.
Now, as you can hear, do you want to do a little concrete job?
Man, I'll tell you what, they're doing things pretty daggum good.
We have pipe installed, rockets around it, everything is nice and glued in. Besides right there, we'll get to that here in a minute. But look at this, it's all connected together. We're gonna have the shower there. We'll have to do that work later when we get concrete poured. We already talked about that. Toilet, sink, then continuing on. Go under here, underneath the cinder blocks. We got as far as we can get right now because we need to do some work on the other side where the new part of the basement is going to be, and everything is going to tie and it's going to need to dive down because that's actually going to be at a lower elevation. So this is about as far over here as we want to go, and then we are also going to have a pipe dropping down somewhere over here that is going to catch the bathroom that is right above the ceiling right here. So we still need to get that done, but that will all tie in here. So that's going to be a project for another day. But otherwise, we got the pipe continued in here, floor drain in there, and then this room is all done. Now, we may notice that this room does not have rock around the PVC pipe, and that is because just the elevation, these are only like half buried in the rock. So these will be covered with concrete, but in order for us to be at the right slope, these had to be out of the rock, and then as they get further, see how it gets further and further into the rock, and then it just keeps going downhill, so that way everything flows. Now, I did not fully cover these PVC pipes with rock yet because we're going to expose the top just like this. And Roman had a really good idea. Initially, when we were laying these pipes in, I was like, you know, Roman, we should like make a diagram on the ceiling or something. So then if in the future there's ever any issues with the plumbing or you want to drill something into the floor or whatever, you know exactly where the plumbing is because it would be on the ceiling right above it. And then Roman's like, well, hey, better yet, what if we just took a wire and we mounted it right on the top of all of this plumbing, and then we just ran it up to our vertical stack, and it had a little tail right here sticking off of it, and then we could take a locator, and you attach it to the wire, and it puts a signal through the wire, and then you go along with your little hand beeper thing, goes beep, 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 and it lets you know exactly where the pipes would be underneath of the floor, and I thought that was a genius thing. So we left the tops open, so that way we can get a wire mounted up on the top of them, and then once that's in place, then we'll take the rest of this rock, and we will backfill everything across, and then it'll basically just look just like this, and you won't even know anything's there. We'll be able to figure something out here.
But anyway, it's dark outside now. Roman just went home. I would say Project DIY Plumbing went extremely well. This is all we got for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Okay, so if you're a plumber, what do you think? And, not doing a water test kind of concerns me just because it's under a slab, and even most plumbers would do that. But I got to tell you, Cole and Roman really did for DIYers that don't do this. I think they did a pretty good job. Worried about vents, worried about trap primers, worried about things like that. Oversized a lot of things, but I'd rather see them oversize it than undersize it. So if you're a DIYer, would you do something like this? Do you have what it takes to get in and just start digging and install your own plumbing from watching YouTube videos? Well, they did. And truthfully, for DIYers, for homeowners, I think they did a great job. Guys, if you love this video, I definitely think you're going to like this one.